If you notice, this is something that vexes people on the left, and it may seem obvious, but they're never happy. If you notice when Biden was president, if you listen to people on the left, they were still miserable about everything. They're never happy.
I don't think they know how to be happy, Nick.
Yeah, no, I think you're right, and you can see it's just that everything that happens, no matter what, looking for the negative in it, and the only time that they seem to find any sort of happiness, it's momentary, and it is in what they perceive as pain of people that they don't like. Like if they really stuck it to someone, you see these glimpses of glee when someone that they don't like dies, for example. What was that? A couple of was it on a school board member in Florida or somewhere that when Hulk Hogan died, oh good, one less MAGA, and just gleeful about it. Did you see that story?
Yes. And what a sad way to just
Well,
view the
right.
world.
And that's the only time that they really seem to express any sort of happiness or joy is if somebody that they don't like dies or gets killed or something horrible happens to them. That's when you see them celebrate and LOL online. What a horrifically awful and sad self-imposed perspective on life. And that's the thing of it. It's self-imposed. It is a chosen mindset. And when I say chosen, it isn't chosen in every single instance. You can shift the mind. It's not easy. I mean, this isn't anything that it's been discussed before, and there's all sorts of scientific studies and research and papers written on how your brain works and how those little things that fire off take the path of least resistance, sort of like flowing water does. And you can redirect it. You can redirect yourself from, an individual who, anytime something happens, their immediate go-to is, well, okay, but why is that bad? How is that bad? What's the negative? And Debbie Downer, the character from the era where Rachel Dratch, as one of the SNL players, she was Debbie Downer, and every sketch, one of which was Disney World, where Lindsay Lohan was the host, and they're at Disney World, and they're sitting around, talking about how excited they were, and everything that they said, Debbie Downer would bring up something that was negative, and that would bring everyone down, and that's. When you do that over and over again, that becomes your instinctual default. But you actually can change that. There's steps that you can take that they actually physically alter the way that your brain fires, but it takes deliberate effort for a period of time. But after a while, then that becomes your default. And it goes both ways. If you are just a person who is, quote, naturally positive, and you were to, for whatever reason, take the deliberate effort of seeing the negative immediately, or maybe you are around someone who does that, and so you become accustomed to something positive happens, but that person in your life points out the negative, and after a while, so you think about that, and then that becomes the path of least resistance for your mind to fire off in that direction, and then that becomes your default, and vice versa. Just perspective in life, that is the way that people work, the way that the brain works. And so that's the real sad thing about people on the left and Trump derangement syndrome and people who hate Trump, is that it is a choice. That default instinct that they tell themselves, and it's an emotional response, they tell themselves, well, no, I feel this way just because Trump is horrible. Everything Trump does is awful. No, that's just what you have trained your brain to be the default of. And not just with Trump, but if I can guarantee you, any person out there who is anti-Trump in the sense that they can't think of a single good thing he's ever done, and they believe every bad thing, no matter how hysterically paranoid the accusation is about Trump, and everything that Trump does is bad. I guarantee you, everything in life they view in the same way. Everything in life that happens, they see the negative side of it. Everything that occurs is something that, well, yeah, but that because that is their mindset, and it is. It's just it's a horrifically sad way. What a waste. It's sad is one word to describe it, but waste is the other. We have these incredible lives and the choice to enjoy it, and it doesn't mean that you have to live in la la land and in denial of all bad things and everything's wonderful all the time. That's not what it means. But to choose to never be happy, and I suspect a lot of people on the left would tell themselves, well, that's not true. It's just because of Trump. If Kamala Harris were president today, they'd still be complaining and unhappy and griping about things. And, it's just the way that they are. For the rest of us, more good news. We'll talk about this. The GDP numbers shattering expectations. Once again, Donald Trump defying all of the experts. All of the experts. The experts, the experts, the experts. Trump the idiot. Trump the uneducated. Trump, the guy who doesn't know what he's doing, once again proves that he was the guy who was right, while all of the experts were wrong. And did you hear Kamala Harris's announcement? Not going to run for governor of California.
What a shame.
After much deep thought discussion. Listen, and I didn't mention this. I knew it was the beginning of the end of her speculation because last week, Willie Brown, who still holds a great deal of sway, he, of course, she was his side piece when he was mayor of San Francisco, and he anointed her to get that first position as a local prosecutor, and that's how her political career began because she was his side piece, and he got her that position. And he's acknowledged this. This isn't any sort of conspiracy theory or secret. And last week, he said in an interview that she needs to not run. She should probably find something else to do in as nice of a way as he possibly could, saying she shouldn't run. And I thought, that's it. The guy who launched her career, who still in California holds a significant amount of political clout, publicly coming out to a reporter and saying Kamala Harris needs not to run for this office. I thought that's going to be not that she necessarily had an easy path ahead of her anyhow, but I thought, I don't know that she can overcome that. It seemed like permission. It was giving permission to influential Democrats to come out and say what they were privately saying, and that is Kamala Harris shouldn't run. And so it's been, less than a week, and that announcement has been made yesterday by Kamala Harris. Weather in a moment. Right now, the latest news update.
And the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair of the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we'll see scattered showers throughout the day, otherwise mostly cloudy with a low around 81. Tonight, isolated showers and thunderstorms before 7 p.m., and then mostly cloudy with a low around 64. For your Friday, sunny with a high near 82, and on Saturday, sunny and hot with a high near 83.
That story that Mike Landis had there, and the allegations of that individual, who I believe is also in this country illegally, and owning a number of restaurants, one here in Springfield. And on the surface, the story can seem like what many people would consider rather benign. He was just hiring other illegals and giving them a job, and that way they could live productive lives here in America. But according to the allegations, it was more nefarious than that, and they allege that he was deliberately like coaxing people from be it Mexico or whatever other country, to come up here for the specific purpose of having the ability to have employees that he could pay much, much less in order to undercut the competition in the restaurant industry in whatever market he happened to be in, one of which was Springfield. So it was more in their accusation, not simply a guy who had a restaurant that was hiring other people from his culture, but it was a specific and deliberate effort to coax people from other countries to come here so he could hire them and pay them much, much less than he otherwise would have to, all for the purposes of being able to have a greater economic advantage over competing restaurants. And so it's just a bit more, I think, for many people, nefarious than what oftentimes people think of. And it's just someone here in this country doing what he can in order to help others. That is not what it is the government is alleging against that particular individual. Springfield's Talk 104.1 traffic update. Trump, GDP, tariffs, inflation data defy doomsday predictions. As slowly but surely critics begin to soften And that's the way that it should be. This is how you want to identify, are there honest Democrats? Are there honest liberals out there? And at least to some degree, there are, and they are the individuals. Bill Maher, I'll use him as an example, that has said, I was wrong on this stuff. I thought, like everyone else, like not everyone else, Trump and some of us recognized that Trump had some sense of what he was doing here. But he noted, everyone was saying by the 4th of July, the economy was going to be tanked, the tariffs were going to have this massive impact on our economy, and we're going to have a Great Depression. He said, I was wrong. A lot of never-Trumpers, not necessarily liberals, but this is also a great way to see whether someone who is a never-Trumper is, when it really comes down to it, honest, or if they're maybe just beginning to open their eyes to reality a little bit and look at reality versus the fog of their own emotion. And, okay, yeah, Trump was right. In fact, there was a never-Trumper who has a piece, I believe it was published yesterday in the New York Times, who, it's New York Times, doom and gloom, and saying, I was wrong about this. Trump apparently knows what he's doing. Or he stumbled backwards into it somehow because we were wrong. Just the News, they cite the co-founder of Home Depot, who during the tariff, the initial tariff push and the talk of tariff and the implementation of tariffs and of Donald Trump, he was very, very open about being against this, calling at the time Trump's plan of tariffs BS, but he didn't censor himself. So this is awful. But as noted in Just the News, after Trump's string of economic success, he was unambiguous when he admitted that he was wrong. The influential businessman telling CNBC Squawk Box in July, look, let me tell you, right now, I'm sold on Trump. Now, for him, he's somebody that, he's right there front. He sees it. He's not some distant politician. He's an individual that clearly is neck deep in the realities of the economic marketplace, particularly when it comes to, the sort of products, goods, and services that you would purchase at Home Depot. The announcement of the GDP exceeded expectations. The 3% was above what was expected, and there were variations of predictions, but none of them at 3% for U.S. economic growth, GDP. The Conference Board's Consumer Confidence Index rose 2.0 points to 97.2 in July. That also exceeded economists' expectation of 95.4, driven by a 4.5 increase in the expectation index to 74.4. And so across the board, again, winning, winning, winning. The one area that is still holding the economy back is the Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell announcing that he was not going to budge on the interest rate, something, of course, Trump and so many economists have been very vocal in noting is not warranted and is something that is holding back what could be even more success for the U.S. economy, though the decision will be revisited in September. And when it comes to this particular decision, there is a board, and for the first time since 1993, there was dissent in the board, with two of the board members saying interest rates need to be lowered. This is ridiculous at this point. And not since 1993 has there been that dissent. Come September, we'll see what happens. But once again, just ultimately positive news. Here is some of the reporting on CNBC yesterday as those numbers came down.
The left and people that don't like the president and don't want things to work. And you know, like Senator Elizabeth Warren will come on and say, inflation's out of control and the economy is getting killed by what's happening by these tariffs. This 3% with the market at new highs, and really we haven't seen inflation, go up back to 3%. Maybe it will this week. Maybe we'll see it. But none of these horrible things have happened, but they still talk like it's happening. It's amazing.
Well, there's an important lesson there. Don't pick a congressman to be your money manager. That's what I would say. But in the end, Congress has their own reasons to point out certain things. And the Democrats, of course, as you pointed out, really don't want to see the current administration have some success. But there's no doubt that this is some success.
And that's putting it mildly, some success. Relatively speaking, it is some success compared to what is in all likelihood going to be coming in the foreseeable future. You know, the reference there to the fact that the left continues to say, oh, the interest rate or inflation, it's going to happen. Just wait, it's going to happen. Oh, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. You know, we were told prior to Liberation Day, April 2nd, that inflation was going to occur because of these policies of Donald Trump, and that was going to trigger. Then it didn't happen, and so we were told, well, it'll come, don't worry. And then I remember hearing, well, June is the month that the experts say that we're going to suffer from all of these tariffs translating to the form of inflation. I mean, you remember the stories, news stories all over the place. How this was just going to be devastating to the average person. The massive increase in cost, grocery shopping on any given week, when we had been accustomed to every week you would go and you would see a significant increase in prices. We were told that what Trump was doing by June is going to pale in comparison, the Biden administration's economic policies. And it didn't happen. Then, July, wait for July. And you look at that and then think back to the media and the experts and the way that they talked about inflation during the beginning of the Biden years. And it was the exact opposite situation where we were seeing inflation and they kept telling us, oh, no, it's, it's transitory. Oh, no, it's don't worry about it. It's just a blip on the radar. It's going to go away. Well, then it wasn't transitory, but by the summer, it's going to be gone. Well, then all of this. And so just like everything else that the so-called experts predict, it is the opposite of what is actually occurring, whether it is the economy overall as a whole or when it comes to inflation. And when we actually were dealing with meaningful, painful inflation, the media and the experts kept telling us, don't worry about it. It's going to go away tomorrow. It's transitory. It's temporary, which of course all turned out to be a lie. And with Trump, we keep being told, tomorrow it's coming. It's going to be here. All the experts say so. Yet it doesn't come. It doesn't come. It doesn't come. And it doesn't come. And while, of course, anything can happen, at this point, if you just want to look at, if you want to really gauge based off the experts, and I'm not being facetious about this, I'm being serious. Whatever the experts say, believe the opposite. Because that is the one thing that they are consistently accurate in when it comes to the economy. Whatever they say, the opposite is going to happen. And since the Obama era specifically, they have been very, very consistent in that. Happy hour coming up. This is going to be tomorrow, 4 to 6 at Retro Metro. We had a great lunch bunch there yesterday, didn't we?
Yes,
It was
we
a
did.
really
Very
great,
nice group.
very nice group. Our groups are always so nice, and every once in a while, we'll have a lunch bunch group at Retro Metro that will be like, so do you ever, like, have you ever had a really bad group? And, yeah, just sort of the morbid curiosity, like anything that just, and honestly, no. I mean, never. This is what I used to do with Forever and Ever and a Day Ago when I did music radio at Lunch Bunch. This is actually, I quote, stole the idea from a station I'd worked at before whenever we started Lunch Bunch here. And, it was just different. Sometimes the groups, it was just, I honestly, I did not enjoy it. I just didn't look forward to it at all. I don't know. There was the people, it was very random. But when it comes to the listeners of this station, you all, whether it's Great Escape or Breakfast at Scramblers or Happy Hour, Retro Metro or Lunch Bunch or whatever, it's just everybody is always really awesome. And I just never, you think how long? Been doing Lunch Bunch for what? 14 years, I'd say, every week, minus, holidays and vacation and such. You think how many, because you're talking probably at the least 40 a year, certainly more than that, probably 45 or 46. But if you say 40 a year over a 15-year period, I mean, you're talking 1,000 lunches, somewhere around there. COVID, we had a pause and so forth. But point being, to never ever have a group of folks in which, like, oh man, that was a nightmare. That's just pretty insane. But it just shows how awesome this audience is, how awesome you all are.
That's right.
And your friends and coworkers are too, because that's one of the great things. I love that also. Whenever a winner brings along coworkers who have never even heard of it. People are always so nice, like, I'm sorry, I've never really heard of you guys, which is part of the point. That's part of the upside, is because you bring people oftentimes who have no idea who we are, and so that is somebody new we're introduced to. Anyhow, yesterday, no exception, another fantastic group. You can go to ksgf.com, get signed up, and if you're chosen, then we'll reach out, contact you, and then on a Wednesday, we'll meet for lunch at Retro Metro, and you get to bring 5 friends with you. So that's how it all works. And then again, Friday, tomorrow, we will have happy hour at Retro Metro, which is, got happy hour specials and drinks and food, and we just hang out and have a good time. And we'll be kicking the morning off at Scramblers.
Springfield's Talk 1041, the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by J&S Automotive. Today we'll see scattered showers throughout the day, otherwise mostly cloudy with a high near 81. Tonight, isolated showers before 7 p.m. and then mostly cloudy with a low around 64. And for your Friday and Saturday, sunny with a high near 82.
This headline, I love this. Veteran Democratic strategist, they're talking about James Carville, makes bold prediction for the midterms. And his prediction is that Democrats are going to do very, very well. And listen, he may be right. But how is it these people, James Carville specifically, aren't too embarrassed to come out and make a prediction after they came out and they're like, oh, yeah, Kamala Harris is just going to sweep this thing. And he was one of them. I mean, the lead up to the election that people were going to be Kamala Harris, that it was she was just a shoo-in, that, Trump had alienated all of these voters in Michigan and Wisconsin, and she was all of these states. Just with complete assuredness, like it was a no-brainer. And then there's no, I don't know. I just would be embarrassed. I'd be like, you know what? I'm not going to go out there as an expert anymore on this stuff because people will remember how bad I am at it. These people just they've got no pride, no shame, no dignity, no desire to be right and correct. I don't know. It's a weird thing. Maybe I'm the flawed one. I think, hey, if I'm putting myself out there and people are listening to me as somebody who knows what they're talking about, and I'm pretty consistently way off, not like, well, I can understand how you could miss that, or, well, the prediction was kind of close, but way off, I mean, way, way off, and consistently so, I think I'd probably be like, I'm a little embarrassed to go out there now, so I'm going to stop doing this and find something else to do. But these people, these experts, these political analysts that are consistently wrong, it does not bother them at all. It makes no difference. But honestly, we know why. Because that's not really what they're doing. They don't have any interest in being they don't even view themselves as that. These economists that are experts on the border, experts on terror, experts where they constantly are wrong. They're not embarrassed because they aren't really even viewing themselves as, oh, my credibility is based upon being right about this because this is why I'm here. I'm here to tell people here's what to expect is going to happen. They are political activists, and they're left-wingers. And so their job is to present information that is going to best help their political cause. And that's what they're doing. And that's why this stuff doesn't bother them. Like, for example, Trump, 25% tariff imposed on India. And much of this is based off the fact that India sells oil to Russia, and it's to punish them for that. And ultimately what the preferred result would be is that India would stop doing that to further harm Russia, which is just such a weird thing for Trump to do, given that he's just a puppet of Putin. Why would Putin be directing Trump to punish India economically in an effort to try to get them to stop selling cheap energy to Russia so that they could, among other things, continue to put oil in their tanks to roll through Ukraine and to, just have energy? Why would Putin direct Trump to do that? That just seems weird. There is a married couple who immigrated legally to the United States from Cuba. And they have a TikTok account. It's at Yoel and Mari. YOELANDMARI. It's got nearly 500,000 followers, though I suspect probably more at this point because of the story published by Fox News. And what they have done largely is post videos going through supermarkets. Because as individuals who live in a socialist utopia of Cuba that has grocery stores, like Mamdani is saying he is going to bring to New York City, these government-funded grocery stores, that way everyone has the security of knowing that they'll never go hungry. Here in the United States, they have found themselves, as so many people who flee socialist and communist countries do, coming here to the United States, they are just gobsmacked over the amount and variety of food that is available to people here in the United States. I want to play for you, and this is a significant and important one because it, again, is reality versus fantasy world. The left is constantly these fantasies of socialism and, food is something that the government should guarantee, and then everyone will have what they want. I mean, Bernie Sanders has argued that food lines are good because that means everyone's treated equal. He has actually said this. Mamdani wanting to replicate what is done in Cuba when it comes to grocery stores. Meanwhile, people who have actually lived through that, they tell a story of reality. So it's important for that purpose, but specifically because this is what the Democrats, and the latest polling shows, Mamdani has 50% support, and that even if with a three-way or four-way race, I guess, going on in New York, you've got Eric Adams, who is running as an independent. You have Cuomo is going to run as an independent, and then you got, I always mispronounce his name, but the Republican candidate, obviously not expected to win. It's New York City. But even if like all but one of them dropped out, Mamdani would still win. So he's going to win this thing, barring any completely black swan unforeseen circumstance. And this is what he's wanted. So this is real life stuff that the Democrat Party is going to be bringing to the single largest city in the United States of America, that being New York City. And I'm going to play, there's an interview, just some short clips of these Cuban immigrants here to the United States talking about and warning Americans, you do not want to go down this path. That next, I'm Nick Reed. There is a couple that legally came to the United States from Cuba. They have a TikTok account, nearly 500,000 followers at the time the story here on Fox News was printed, plus millions of likes. They shared their story with Fox News Digital, and I'm going to play you a couple of clips of those individuals. And much of the videos that they post are going into grocery stores and just people, these individuals that used to live in the wonderful socialism of Cuba, where you got free health care and, oh, we'll take care of the food desert. Don't worry. We don't need evil capitalism here. And so grocery stores have, hardly any food. And Yoel Diaz, who arrived here in 2021 on a K-1 visa and then applied for residency, said he actually felt dizzy walking inside a grocery store for the first time because there was just so much. The Arizona-based couple grew up as family friends living on the same street in a province west of Havana. Yoel Diaz worked as a computer science teacher in Cuba, earning very little money. And here in America, 2022, he earned his very first paycheck from UPS. And he celebrated it joyfully. He said the simple ability in America to just walk around a grocery store and be able to find everything that you need is something that he only saw in movies before. This is an adult man. He said, quote, "This country has given me the opportunity to be a human." Oh, being from Cuba, you might recognize that this isn't a white, this is just some white guy. So it's amazing that given how racist we are as a country, run by a Nazi and a white supremacist, that someone who is a minority and came here as a legal immigrant for the first time feels human in the United States of America. That this is what gave him his humanity. Marissa Diaz noted grocery stores back in their native Cuba are divided by those who have access to dollars from their families abroad, like here in the United States, and then those who don't have family abroad. In Cuba, the median salary is around $40 a month, so you have to choose very carefully what you're going to buy. Here they are on Fox News Digital, and some clips of their interview regarding what it's like here in the United States versus socialism, particularly when it comes to grocery stores and access to food.
You have to go to a bodega where it's very limited on what you can get. I remember being in Cuba and it took me 6 months to find butter. It took me 6 months to find milk. There are WhatsApp groups where people say, oh, I found milk in this location, or I found butter in this location, so that you can know where things are at any given time. It's not like the United States where you never have to think about if there's going to be butter in the grocery stores or not. I think the closest time that we ever had that in the United States was the pandemic. So that's what it's like being in Cuba, but all the time.
Another history in the line of the socialists. The Cuban people, we have something in the history like Venezuelan happened the same. Before Venezuela becoming all this bad government dictatorship, the Cuban people outside say, "Hey, be careful. What are you asking? Hey, look at this guy. Hey, don't do it this." And that's happened. More than 30 years. They don't have nothing. They don't have food. And when I see Mandami is the name. Sorry, the name. It's difficult for me. It's a United States people don't ask you for something do you know. Do never realize what's going on behind all this idea, like my wife says. Because you have the privilege, go to the store, go to your table, have whatever brand of food you want, eggs, milk, yogurt, everything. And you can go to the street taking whatever coffee you want. We don't have that. My mom dying for coffee, she know that. And you have that privilege, simple privilege. Think better, what are you asking?
When Biden was running in 2020, 2019 into 2020, there was a wave of social media posters who had either they were still living in Venezuela or fled Venezuela, and they were saying, America, do not go down this path. And what many of them noted is we were warned and did not listen. And they talked about how prior to Hugo Chavez, when Hugo Chavez was out there talking about, like Mamdani, the wonders of socialism, like Bernie Sanders and Ocasio-Cortez, and, oh, we're going to grocery stores run by the guy, everything will be wonderful. And these Venezuelans noted, people from Cuba told us, do not do it. We fell into this trap, and it has destroyed us. And we did not listen. And now we're watching you do the same thing. And New York, I'm telling you, New York City's going to do it. Now, it won't be as dramatic because they will be subsidized by the rest of the country and the capitalism and freedom in the rest of the country. So you can, even though Mamdani can open these government-run grocery stores and they will fail. Now, that doesn't mean they'll close, because it's government, and failure simply means you put more taxpayer dollars into it. But you won't have people, having to wait 6 months in order to get a gallon of milk, because there will be grocery stores that are in existence because of capitalism around that they can go to, unless you're just really poor and have limited mobility, and as usual, those people may not be able to do that, and this is standard for the left and their policies. It's the most vulnerable who suffer the most, and so that may occur. But, you can take something like has been done in the former Soviet Union, or is done in Venezuela, or is being done in Cuba, and say, well, look, here, look, this grocery store, it's still in existence. Well, sure, it's surrounded by a sea of freedom and capitalism that subsidizes it. And on top of that, yes, you don't have starving people because they have options because of capitalism and freedom. There are two groups of people that provide information regarding socialism and communism. There are those who tell you how wonderful it is, and these are academics. These are people who are, younger people on the left. These are people who haven't lived through it. These are people who have in their minds created what they want it to look like, what they have told themselves it can be. And then there is the group of people who actually have lived in it. And they are the ones who tell you how awful and bad it is and how you must do everything you can to stay away from it. What does that tell you? Springfield's Talk 104.1, I'm Nick Reed. Having this conversation off air about how we are, as Americans, privileged because of the abundance that we have in this country and access to because of freedom and liberty, which, of course, capitalism is the result of. And especially people on the left, they're so ungrateful. so completely ungrateful and entitled and spoiled. And they go around complaining like there isn't enough here, and so they want government to guarantee more, which of course results in the opposite. And I know I've talked about this before, but it's just such a perfect illustration of it. And a bit over, I don't know, 12, 13 years ago, spent some time in Ukraine, and then was able to host some of my friends from over there that I met during my short period of time over there. They were given permission to leave Ukraine. You can't just leave Ukraine, or you couldn't at the time. You had to get permission from the government, and they were given permission. And taking them just to get some groceries at Walmart, I didn't realize we were going to be in there half a day. And they wanted to go back. And I later found out that they were, when I would drop them off at their hotel, they would find a way to get to Walmart just to look around. They were in awe. They couldn't believe how much was available, that it was just always there. But I also took them to, I'll have to share. There's another story I just want to share about it that is a reflection of how out of touch and privileged people and ungrateful on the left are in this country. But we got to get a traffic update. Christy Fulnecki in the next hour as well. I'm Nick Reed. Don't forget, in the last 5 seconds as I vamp here, we got Scramblers tomorrow morning, 6 to 9 a.m. Springfield's Talk 104.1. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show. 5 ways to pay for a stay and life, if you will, at a nursing home, but not always. This is something I learned, Lori Rook, talking with her a couple of weeks ago, that there are essentially 5 ways, but when you wait until that moment comes, slowly but surely those different options you have one by one drop off to where you may end up with no options. It's all about planning early, I'm telling you. And unfortunately, what I think happens with a lot of people, if they've never been in that position, they just, we don't see elderly people out on the street. And so we assume that there's always a way. Like, well, I don't know how, but somehow people get their parents and grandparents into nursing homes, and I know that people don't always have money, so there must be some way. Well, there's 5 ways, and some can be, can make life much easier for the family, and others could make it a complete burden. And people do oftentimes get evicted from nursing homes. There's a lot about it if you've never been through it yourself or have a loved one who has that you're unaware of. Ultimately, Ozarks Elder Law, you've got to reach out to them, and you may think, oh, well, my parents don't need it or grandparents, or I won't need it for another 40 years. Do it now. At the very least, the consultation costs you nothing, and then they will tell you, here's what you need to do in order to be prepared, and here's what it will cost to do it. One cost, no hourly a billing that goes on, so you don't have to worry about unexpected expenses. OzarkElderLaw.com, 10 area locations, also under Nick's endorsements at KSGF.com. I was talking in the last hour, playing this audio from, and by the way, Christy Fulnecki's here.
Oh, yes, hello.
I was playing at the end of the last hour, this couple that has gotten quite a bit of followers on TikTok. They were from Cuba, and they do a lot of videos just going around grocery stores and just amazed.
Yeah, that was amazing.
Absolutely amazed, and trying to explain and warn Americans about the direction that Democrats are taking us. And Mamdani is openly said, oh yeah, government-run grocery stores, it'll be wonderful. And just what an absolute nightmare that is, and a horror it is for humanity. And I had mentioned that the short period of time, 12 years ago, however far back, I spent in Ukraine, made some great friends, and they were given permission to come here to the United States for a couple of weeks. And I had just one day taken them to Walmart to pick up some, a couple of different things. And I was like to never get them out of there. They were just, I remember they would, every item, they were in an aisle, just going through, looking at it. And celery was something that they didn't have. That was a thing.
Oh, that's interesting.
I remember one of them
really?
buying like 5 bags of celery. They just couldn't believe and how inexpensive it was, because there only really, really rich people got celery. And they were on the Crimean Peninsula, and Kersh is the city that they lived in. And they weren't like poor. They were what was standard in Ukraine. And I was talking about how particularly people on the left are so ungrateful and entitled, and they act.
That's so true. That's really true.
Yeah, they act as if in this country, capitalism, it's just been horrible and awful, and we need socialism like, any of these other socialist countries. And so when they were here, their mindset, they had been born and raised in the Soviet Union. And so they had been trained to be afraid of Americans. One of the things that they were always told is to be most frightened of Americans who are friendly to you because they're trying to trick you. Wow. As they were young, and they knew intellectually that wasn't true. But when you're young and you are taught something like that, it's just hardwired into your brain. And so when they got here and saw how friendly everyone was, they just were beside themselves. Absolutely every single thing was a joy. Complete 100% joy. But there was one event that left them crestfallen, and it was during it was one of the left-wing protests going on against capitalism, where they were going and they were kind of like camping out on lawns of the Federal Reserve or whatever.
Yeah.
And so there's the one in Kansas City, and I had taken them to Kansas City, and we drove by, and they had all these left-wingers out there camping, and they're like, what's going on? So I told them, and they said, do you think we could like would they let us go and talk to them? And I was like, yeah, let's go do that.
Oh, really?
So yeah,
Oh,
they were just curious about it,
yeah.
because they knew this was going on, because anti-American news was covering
Yeah.
it in order to make it look like America was awful and horrible and this awful place where there's such economic inequality and all these things. So they knew they had been seeing this on the news, and they're like, oh my gosh, this is can we go talk to these people? So I take them over there, and it's filled with, of course, young left-wingers that have coolers with food and drinks. They have iPads. They have their iPhone. They're like just having a good time,
Yeah, right.
And
all the amenities of Americans.
Yeah, exactly.
All the electronics
and so of course the Ukrainians were just a little intimidated, and so I was like, "Come here, be fine. We'll go, we'll go talk." So I remember one guy sitting there on the ground, and because they're all just sitting around and introducing them, and the one thing I remember is he said, "We're doing this for you too," just whatever the hell.
Oh,
it's typical
drama.
virtue signaling.
Yeah, drama.
So we spent about half an hour, and they'd walk around, and there were a couple translators, so there was conversation. We get back in, because we're all in an SUV that I had driven them up in. I think there's 8 total, somewhere around there. And for the very first time, because usually there's just a chattering and excitement, they were completely silent. Like nothing was being said whatsoever. And I was just kind of trying to navigate out of the area, so I wasn't thinking much of it. But then I realized there was this silence. And then the gal she was one of the translators, she was from Ukraine. And she was sitting shotgun, and she sort of broke the silence and said, almost to herself, if they lived just a week where we did, they would not be so ungrateful.
Yeah.
Like, they could not believe how entitled and how these people who lived in what they had come to visit and saw in real life was beyond their dreams in terms of access to food and electronics, and just they just like it was unimaginable how incredible this place was. And then they went, and people who got to live here, like, they had to go back. They knew that they had to go back. That this was something that they probably would never ever get to experience again, because you can't leave the country without government's permission, and you can't take family with you. Family has to stay to make sure that you don't flee. And they met these who were able to live in this life that they could never even imagine, and they were so ungrateful, and they were bitching about it.
Well, you know what?
It hit them in their soul. It depressed them. And I just thought that was such it really made an impression on me too.
Yeah.
That it made that impression on them, and gave me just, I don't know, more clarity on the level of just ungratefulness of people, particularly on the left in this country.
Well, that's a fail of our education system.
Yeah.
I mean, totally. That is a total failure, because that is the perspective that you need in school. If you don't have the means to travel, whether military or whatever, so you don't actually, none of these entitled liberals have any access to know what it's like to be in another country.
Well, they should have.
That should be your
and like
part of what you learn growing up.
This couple from Cuba that has become big on TikTok for going to grocery stores here in the United States and just in awe over every school district that cares about educating children should find people like that to come and talk to the students. But they don't do. Instead, no, they talk about the wonders of socialism and government. They dig up
the teachers.
Infuriating. I know.
The teacher's job is to do that. But when growing up, we used to say, or that was a common thing. Like for Generation X, they'd say, "Eat your food. There's starving children in China."
Yeah.
And you're like, and then I said that, and my kids were like, "There's starving children in China. What are you talking about?
Why are they doing that?" Like, I don't know. It's just what you say as a parent. You'll say it one day too. We got a latest news update.
And the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we'll see scattered showers throughout the day, otherwise mostly cloudy with a low around 81. Tonight, isolated showers and thunderstorms before 7 p.m. and then mostly cloudy with a low around 64. And for your Friday and Saturday, sunny with a high near 82.
Emily Johnson, House Theory Realty, for all of your home buying needs, your home selling needs. She is awesome. Let's see here. We've known Emily all her life, so we were confident that she was the right realtor for us, and she worked quickly to get our listing posted in a timely manner since we were already under contract to buy another property. She was always available to show the property, meet contractors, stage an open house, answer all our questions. Our house went under contract quickly thanks to her expertise. Selling real estate is not just her job, but also her passion. Now, someone who didn't know her all her life, noting that Emily was able to guide us from house prep all the way to close, everything in between. Her knowledge helped us sell our house fast and for more money. The process went smoothly. If you are needing to buy or sell your home, you absolutely have to give her a call. Emily Johnson, House Theory Realty, for all of your home buying needs and your home selling needs. She's awesome. Oh, and in fact, she'll be with us at Scramblers tomorrow morning.
Okay.
Unless
Yeah, she is awesome.
barring something popping up, because she had texted me and said, "Oh, hey, we got to talk about this and the impact on home buying and home selling," and that is the Missouri, evidently now the only state that has eliminated personal on a state level capital gains.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Tax, which is a fan. That is.
I know, it's so
I
exciting.
haven't talked about that as much as I should, but we will talk about that with Emily tomorrow.
Okay,
So that is a
that's
fantastic thing. And yeah.
Oh, go ahead. What were we going to say?
No, I was going to say because I know we wanted. Well, no, you go ahead.
Well, I was
I
just
was
going to
just trying
say.
in my head do the order of things, but
Okay, well, let's not get
rearranged
in your head. That's kind of scary. But so I wanted to talk about New York because I was just there, not in New York, but in Connecticut, which is a pain in the butt to get there from here. But my son's at a business camp at Yale University, and that was quite the experience going there. But I keep thinking that why would these people elect this guy mayor, or if they do, running and electing, because for one thing, everybody's talking about the grocery stores. I understand that you were talking about that in the last hour, which that's scary. All this government run agencies and businesses that they're going to start. But I can't imagine how much worse crime is going to be there. I mean, and who is going to want to be a cop in New York? I mean, that was kind of scary because my son is there right now, and they went to New York Monday, and he was there, which I was in court, and then I got the alert about the shooting, and luckily they were around that area, but they had their buses were getting ready to leave to go back to Connecticut, and I mean, I was so terrified. I kept saying, "Are you okay? Okay?"
Right.
And I didn't want to tell him because I thought if it's a few streets back from where the NFL shooting happened that, I didn't want to scare him. But then he got back, and that night he said, "Hey, did you know that there's a shooter right around where we were?"
Well, and the thing, so a number of people had rightfully posted, maybe rhetorically, like, why is this shooting such a big deal? Shootings happen all the time in New York City. And here's the reason, I believe anyhow, and why, to me, this sort of shooting gets more attention than so many of the others that occur on any given day or weekend in Chicago or New York or Baltimore. There are most of, I think it's fair to say, most of this sort of shootings and killings that occur are like gang related.
Yeah,
crime,
right.
It is people who are living in a lifestyle that is not the same lifestyle that the average person who just wants to live their life, go to work, raise their family, it's like two different worlds. What is, and pushing people randomly in front of subways or, like this is different because these are people who are just living their lives, not looking for trouble, not deciding to live a lifestyle that increases the likelihood that you'll be the victim of a crime.
Yeah.
Not that those, I'm not saying those people deserve it, but you live certain lifestyles and you increase the likelihood that you are going to be a victim of crime. But when you're somebody that just goes to work,
yeah, and just
somebody, comes in and starts, that is a different level of scary because that gives you the sense there's nothing I can do. Like in a situation like that, I could be a victim and I had no control over it whatsoever. Whereas I think we feel a certain amount of comfort. I know when you hear about crime, even in Springfield and, it's, because of drugs or this or gang related. And that doesn't scare me personally in terms of my personal safety because while, of course, a random person can get caught up in it, I'm not involved in that.
Yeah.
But what does alert me is in Springfield when there is a shooting at a gas station because I buy gas, and I think that's why when there's a story like that shooter that gets so much more attention than regular shootings because it's the sort of thing that the average person can get caught up in at any given moment unexpectedly.
Yeah, because you can actually see yourself in that situation.
Yeah.
And that area of Manhattan is nice. And that's what I couldn't believe it. I thought, I just took my kids there a couple of years ago. And I mean, there's all kinds of families that go around there or at Times Square. And I mean, it's just so frightening. Yeah. And to think that there's going to be a communist, socialist up there running things.
He's on track to win.
I mean, that's just frightening to me. I can't believe that people would be so stupid to elect him.
I know.
I mean, really. I mean,
it's a Democrat populated city. I mean, they do not choose wisely when it comes to leadership. They just don't. I mean, look at every city and the people who complain the most and who march through the streets and burn down buildings because of injustices, they vote to put the same people in charge.
I know.
Over and over again. I mean, it's like, what do you expect? What do you expect? Who are you protesting against? They get out there and protest. We demand change. You're the ones who continue to put the same people in charge. You are the ones who have the opportunity to change things when it comes to vote, but you don't.
Yeah.
And then you demand somehow the rest of us do something about it? This is your problem.
Well, I mean, I
created
remember
this.
When Trump went there when he was campaigning.
Yeah.
I thought, well, maybe something's going to change. I mean, it really does have to happen.
People just, and this is, so obviously not everyone votes for this, but they're in the minority. And it's gotten to the point, and I, in all sincerity, this is what needs to happen, particularly, number one, Jewish people in particular, they need to start fleeing. They need to start evacuating. They need to start now because I don't think there's any help coming. There's nothing that can be done.
Yeah.
I mean, any outside help like Trump in terms of on a national level, this is a Democrat-run city, and we see what they do. They block it. They say no, whether it's National Guard or whatever. They demand that they go to court to try to stop Trump on a federal level from protecting the citizens. So it's just gotten to the point, if you're in some of these Democrat-run cities, and right now with Mamdani looking to be the next mayor of the city of New York, people just have to leave. And
I know,
and unfortunately, poor people and a lot of
I
middle
was
class
gonna
people
say.
don't have the means to do it. But
And minorities. I
yeah.
mean, it's really hurting minorities.
I know.
It really is.
And as usual,
And-
they are the ones who suffer most under left-wing
Yeah, and I was
policies.
really shocked. Well, I mean, I looked up, for Yale, I thought, well, I don't know that much about Ivy League schools. So the population in terms of the racial makeup is 30% white at Yale and 70% minority. And so there are a very large Asian population that were there. And even, just walking around. And I thought, if I was in another country, I would not send my child, even if the prestige, I understand, I would not send my child to New Haven. I mean, I was staying at an Omni right by Yale, this prestigious, beautiful place. I mean, and there were homeless people all over the place, and the bus stop right there by the park. And my son's like, "Mom, you really?" Because usually I'm walking around like trying to figure out where, because we were walking around the Yale campus, and I thought, he goes, "You really got to pay attention," because I did not expect that there would be so many homeless people there. And
great utopia.
Yeah,
great
so
left-wing utopia.
Yeah, so here you have this prestigious university, and you got to keep turning around and make sure that nothing happens to you.
But that is also something that is synonymous with Democrat-run cities. It's very compartmentalized, and where you in Milwaukee was this way, Chicago is this way, to a real profound degree, where you have the rich are very, very isolated from everyone else.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
and you can go from one neighborhood to the next where you have these multi-million-dollar homes, and then all of a sudden it's
that's
the
funny.
slums.
Yeah, that's funny you say that, because when you go to Scottsdale, Arizona,
Mm-hmm.
very, very high end and so nice, and then you're going around thinking, well, where are the homeless people? And then you go down to Phoenix, and you're like, oh yeah, well, here's all the homeless people. So it's the same thing.
So there is, before we go to a break here and get traffic, I'm going to be very curious as to see the reception of Mamdani, because it's been announced, and this is no surprise, the funeral for the police officer, like everyone who's running for mayor, obviously is going to be there. Mamdani cannot go there because Mamdani is already dealing with the fact that he has called for, defunding police and eliminating them and replacing them with social workers and, all of this left-wing stuff. And so obviously it just runs completely counter to the reality of what's going on. And he is planning on attending the memorial or the funeral or whatever. I'm wondering if, is it going to be done in a way that will allow for there to be a reaction? I mean, if he comes in by himself and then you have an opportunity to sort of display displeasure, like turn our back on him, or that sort of thing, or will he just sort of be there in the mix in the crowd, so there's not an opportunity to send that sort of message, and maybe they wouldn't anyhow.
Well,
I don't know.
And for him, it's really tricky, because how do you are you really going to go, and then all your crazy wacko liberal supporters are going to be like, why are you at a cop's funeral?
Right. I mean, can you imagine if the cop was Jewish?
Oh yeah, I know.
Then he'd really find himself in a hard position.
Yeah, I mean, him and Giuliani obviously are polar opposites, but I just think if he gets elected, that's a sad day for America, because that's New York is an icon for America, and it's a beautiful city. I mean, with the Statue of Liberty, I love New York, but it's really going to be sad if this guy gets elected.
In just over 20 years, New York City will have gone from a city that had the single largest attack on our homeland ever, in the name of global jihad, to where they're going to elect a mayor who refuses to condemn those who call for global jihad.
Yeah.
Talk about never forget. Springfield's Talk 104.1, more with Christy Fulnecki coming up. I'm Nick Reed. We will be at Scramblers, broadcasting live tomorrow. Barry will be joining us from Pinnaker Honda on South Campbell, just south of Walnut Lawn. Great interest rates available as low as 0% on select new vehicles, 0.99% on some pre-owned vehicles, certified pre-owned Hondas, with over 100 certified used Hondas on their lot now, and that 0.99% financing available on, again, some of that. Also, still the free fuel for summer is going on. Purchase of a new vehicle at Pinnaker Honda, and you get free gas for 3 months after that purchase, and all sorts of other incredible deals as well. Friday is Food Truck Friday. Hopefully Barry tomorrow will reveal to us what food truck will be at Pinnaker Honda tomorrow on, again, South Campbell, just south of Walnut Lawn. We've got a traffic update, then more with Christy Fulnecki. I'm Nick Reed.
Springfield's Talk 1041, the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by J&S Automotive. Today we'll see scattered showers throughout the day and then mostly cloudy with a high near 81. Tonight, isolated showers and thunderstorms before 7 p.m. and then mostly cloudy with a low around 64. And for your Friday and Saturday, sunny with a high near 82.
Christy Fulnecki is with us.
Can I do one more thing?
Sure.
Okay.
Why not?
While we're on the New York/Wall Street, what is going to happen with Nancy Pelosi? So, yeah.
This whole thing is...
Yeah. Well, you know, I'm proud to say we have a second-tier senator in Missouri.
I know. Boy, Trump really ripping Holly.
It's like
now, there's some
second-tier senator.
This is confusing.
Yeah.
And it hasn't been explained very well, but the reason that Trump, and if you haven't heard, Trump just ripped Josh Hawley and called him a second tier, accused him of trying to sabotage the administration and everything, which obviously is not the sort of attention Josh Hawley's wanted. To me, Josh. Oh, Hawley?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, because he was on Jesse Waters, and he said, and Holly said, well, that's not the worst thing I've been called today. And he said, I had a little chat with Trump today, but of course he didn't say what it was about.
Yeah.
I mean, he totally spun it.
Well, Holly, to me, tries to, he wants to be associated with Trump. And like anytime Trump, it seems this way to me anyhow, that anytime, if Trump is like, oh, yeah, that might be a good idea. Holly runs to write up legislation that, almost like he's trying to get ahead of the curve. So, I'll craft something that Trump will support. And maybe that's an unfair perspective of it, but nonetheless. And so when I saw that Trump came out, and I'll read the truth post here in a moment for you all, just ripping him, I thought, oh man, Josh Holly must not be very. Oh yeah, that popped up in a group text. That's where I first saw it. One of our group texts. And okay, so there is, I think, a pretty popular support behind banning elected officials from buying and selling stocks. And a lot of this is built upon the acknowledgement that a lot of these people get into office and they come out and they are very, very wealthy. And oftentimes that's because of stock buying and selling. And people recognize that what occurs many times is, there'll be someone that owns a lot of, or they'll go out and buy a bunch of stock, and then there'll be some sort of vote that gives a government contract to the company they bought stock in, which causes it to go way up, or stock will be sold, and all of a sudden it's announced by the government a week later or a day later, some sort of regulation on that particular industry that causes stock to go down. There's an actual app that is all based around Nancy Pelosi or her husband's stock buying and selling.
Yeah.
Because just amazing. I mean, it's just they're like psychics when it comes to this stuff.
Which insider trading is a crime.
Unless you are
Yeah.
doing it the way that many people believe that they're doing it.
Yeah.
And that is buying and selling stocks based off of information that they have that is not available to the average person. Now, I will say it has been explained to me, and I believe this to be true, that a lot of members of Congress that do this, it isn't always because they have some sort of inside information. Oftentimes, it is because there are people that are in industries that are starting up, or they are getting ready to do new and exciting things, and they want to have good relationships with members of Congress. Makes sense, right? You want to have a great whether it's your congressperson or maybe a congressperson that's on a committee that can have an impact on your industry. And so they're going to have some new startup, and they will reach out to the member of Congress and be like, hey, I'm starting this new endeavor. Do you want to be part of it? Do you want to buy? And a lot of members of Congress, so it's the connection. It isn't that it's secret information that they have, but it's just that people are reaching out to them and giving them opportunities because they're members of Congress that aren't illegal or anything, but it's just an opportunity that the average person isn't necessarily going to have somebody reach out and say, hey, I'm going to start this up, and you want to be part of it. Now, that being said, there are members, and Nancy Pelosi would be one of them, that does have access to certain information, particularly when it comes to national security things and defense contracts. And so that does happen, but it's not all members of Congress. That was explained to me at one point. I thought, well, I understand that makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, this is the other thing about it. I honestly don't think it will, not that it shouldn't be a law that says you can't do that, but if you are somebody who is looking to make some sort of personal fortune based off your knowledge in government, this isn't going to stop you.
I know that's
because
right. That's true.
Guess what?
Because it's already illegal.
Well,
I mean,
but it's not what they're doing now isn't illegal. That's why this law. That's why they're talking about making a law to make it illegal. But so, for example, this would cover a member of Congress and spouse. Well, Nancy Pelosi, for example, has a daughter, or you have a friend, and you just have your friend do it, and they get a 5% cut or whatever. So it's like a lot of things. The people who are, this is supposed to stop people who are corrupt, right? This will not stop people. And I'm not saying I'm against it, I don't honestly know. And I don't know that I want to even bother spending time trying to figure out if I'm for or against it. But I don't think it is going to do anything in a meaningful, positive way if it is actually put into effect. Now, so what though? And Republicans are largely behind it. Trump has talked about that, and he thinks that Nancy Pelosi should be investigated even because of her involvement allegedly in doing this sort of stuff. So then why is it what's the deal here with Josh Hawley, and he's the only Republican siding with Democrats, and then Trump coming out against him on this? apparently, as best I can tell by reading through this, it is because there was initially, it was called the Pelosi Act.
Right, yeah.
And then there were some changes made, including changing the name of it so as to not hurt Nancy Pelosi's feelings. And according to a number of Republicans, Josh Hawley was undermining them and secretly working with Democrats in order to make these changes happen to protect Nancy Pelosi's reputation. And there was evidently the original, or one of the original Republican proposals also involved investigating Nancy Pelosi.
Right.
And the one that apparently Josh Hawley was sort of conspiring with Democrats in order to push forth instead protected her from that. And that's what Trump was responding to.
That was part of blocking the amendment, right? Because
Yeah,
the
I
amendment,
think so.
Yeah.
And so this is what Trump had posted about Hawley yesterday. Why would one, and he put Republican in quotes, Senator Josh Hawley from the great state of Missouri join with all of the Democrats to block a review sponsored by Senator Rick Scott and with the support of almost all other Republicans of Nancy Pelosi's stock trading over the last 25 years. The information was inappropriately released just minutes before the vote, very much like sabotage. The Democrats, because of our tremendous achievements and success, have been trying to target me for a long period of time, and they're using Josh Hawley, who I got elected twice, as a pawn to help them. I wonder why Hawley would pass a bill that Nancy Pelosi is in absolute love with. He is playing right into the dirty hands of the Democrats. It's a great bill for her and her husband, but so bad for our country. I don't think real Republicans want to see their president, who has had unprecedented success, targeted because of the whims of a second-tier senator named Josh Hawley. So clearly not exactly what Josh Hawley would want. Now, and it should also be noted for people who believe that, well, Trump doesn't like this because it won't allow him to do even this legislation has no effect or impact on the current presidency. So, and I think it does affect future presidents and vice presidents, but this doesn't impact Trump at all. So it isn't something. So I'm not exactly sure the reference to the targeting of him, or if that's even in reference to this specific legislation, or if he's talking in general. But the best I can understand, because of that reference to the review, is that he's ticked because Hawley, in his assessment and what other Republicans are expressing, conspired with Democrats to sort of sabotage the original legislation and instead craft one that ultimately helps protect Nancy Pelosi from an investigation. And that's why.
I don't understand how you could even defend that.
I don't know.
And he actually didn't even, last night in Jesse Waters, he did not even address that issue. He just kept saying that we have to put a stop to all of this. And
yeah, and so there is legislation and that's what Republicans, at the way that they're talking, are mad at him, because they already have that, but he went behind their back in order to craft a different one with the Democrats that they like and that Nancy Pelosi likes.
It's terrible.
But this isn't the first, for whatever the reason, whatever the motivation. I mean, when it came to being against Trump's push for, helping save Medicare by getting the fraud out and stuff, he was the one writing editorials in the New York Times claiming that it was going to kick 8-year-olds off feeding tubes and all this stuff. And so he's this $20 minimum wage or whatever federal that he's joining with liberals on. So I don't understand what's going on with him. I don't know why he is constantly coming out and joining with the left on this stuff, but it's clear, and I've been told in the past that elected Republicans have been scratching their heads about him, wondering what in the hell is going on with this guy. And it seems like now they're starting to verbalize it, because they're coming out and now saying it. So I don't know what the deal is.
The Congresswoman Anna Paulina, is that her name? From Florida. Yeah, I mean, she is real adamant on this issue, and she says she's going to start calling out even Republicans that are against it. But I don't understand, the thing that bothers me is that, okay, if you believe this, that's fine. If you want to, which it's very legitimate to investigate Nancy Pelosi, because she was the leader of the House. She's been in Congress forever. So it's very appropriate they said it was a review that he's trying to block.
Right. That's the thing.
Is completely appropriate given how much money that she's made. She's been in Congress this long, and she was the leader of our House of Representatives in America. I mean, I don't even know how you defend that. But the thing that bothers me is being inauthentic, that you get on there, and so you're not even talking about what you're doing behind the scenes. If you're really for this, why don't you just be honest with what you're doing? That's what I don't like.
I
Because
don't
you
understand
get
it.
these shows that Republicans and conservatives watch, and then you try to act like everything's fine with you and Trump. It's not. How do you even? He didn't even explain why you called him the second tier senator.
Well, and like you were saying, and I didn't see the Jesse Waters thing, but you felt as if he didn't really explain anything, and he just kind of, I guess, fluffs it off as, oh, I've been called worse names before, but that doesn't explain why you did. What is why? Why did you, behind the back of Republicans when there was already Republican legislation handling this, why would you go behind their back, conspire with Democrats, and then block the investigation of, why? If maybe he has some valid reason.
That's what
but you have to explain it. You have to
right.
tell people. You can't just be like, golly gee whiz, I've been called worse names.
That's what he was acting like. I'm like,
it's weird. I don't know what.
I mean, I think he went to Yale or something, but
well,
Ivy League, yeah. So I mean,
maybe that answers the question. Maybe that's what's wrong with him. Yeah,
that's right. And the guy is not. I mean, the way you made it sound, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to go off. I mean, he goes to my church, but it's just I don't like when people are not authentic. And if you want to, I mean, I don't expect all the Republicans to agree on every issue,
right?
But I want you to stand up for what you believe in, and don't get on a conservative talk show, and just tell the people that listen to Fox what they want to hear, and then just kind of brush it off. Oh well, Trump and I talked and acted like everything's fine. Well, it's clearly not fine because he just called you a name.
I think part of it is he feels like he never has to worry about losing re-election as a U.S. Senator in Missouri.
Yeah,
and I think that he's correct. Now, that being said, if he continues this stuff, I don't know. Maybe that will change. It's so difficult in a primary to get beat. And I don't think I think that the Republican Party, the establishment, it doesn't matter what Josh Hawley does, they will still support him, and they will still go out and say, "Oh, he's conservative," and circulate clips of him doing a great job of questioning people. He serves Missouri and the country very, very well whenever he is interrogating some of these left-wingers that come before his committee. That he does well, but it's just the things that affect the rest of us in terms of laws.
Well,
that's where he kind of seems to be on the left. Price controls.
Here's an example that you could get on there and say, I understand that Trump said this, and I respect Trump, but I have a different belief because I don't feel like we should be singling out members of Congress. I mean, you could easily just explain your point of view, but I just don't like when you don't seem like you're telling the truth about it.
Yeah, so. I think that he feels like he probably it'll pass. I don't have to. It'll pass. Republicans will vote for me.
We will.
I know, but that's We got Christy Filnecki, more coming up. I'm Nick Reed. Sarah Myers, everyone.
Thank you, Foreman Mechanical Heating and Air. It's still ridiculously hot, although we are going to catch a little bit of a break next week, but you'll still need your AC. And if you've noticed this year that it's struggling, it's not working up to par, or worst of all, it's not working at all, reach out to Russell and his team over at Foreman Mechanical Heating and Air. They are a great group of individuals. I highly recommend them, and I also recommend that you read the reviews because you will see a common theme, and that's that the Foreman team is upfront, they're efficient, and they're just all around awesome. So whether you need an AC tune-up, a service repair, or maybe it's time to upgrade your unit, remember Foreman Mechanical Heating and Air for all of your HVAC services. Now to schedule that appointment, reach out to Russell today. You can find all of the contact information for Foreman Mechanical Heating and Air under the Sarah's Endorsements tab at ksgf.com.
Well, Kamala Harris announced that she's not going to run for governor of
I
California.
know.
That she is.
It shed one tear when I was watching that.
She's instead going to focus on ways that she can help out in the private sector.
I know, that's right.
Which
That means
okay.
like
I mean,
she probably tried to have a fundraiser and it was like nobody showed up.
Let me tell you,
I can
all but guarantee you that she will not get a job in the private sector unless it's as maybe a lobbyist or something that has a connection to government.
Yeah.
Because who would hire her? What would one hire her?
I don't know. Not for an attorney because she cannot speak. So she's not going to be able to go to court. So that strikes that. I mean, what do you do as a lifelong politician? I don't know. But you know what? It's a little harder to siphon the money out of USAID now. So
Yeah.
I don't know how they're going to do that with the Democratic Party.
Yeah, they'll figure something.
Oh, she'll probably,
Maybe
she'll be in front of she'll be at the head of some nonprofit that she'll get paid like, $5 million or something then.
Would you donate? I don't care what the cause is. If she were in charge,
That's the only reason she's not running is because nobody's donating money. And then did she have to pay back that? I mean, she had the debt from the last.
You know what? I bet that if there was any, they'll cover it for her, and that may have been part of. You know what? Yeah. If you don't run for governor, well, go ahead and cover. But I think Willie Brown came out last week and said she shouldn't run, and I think that was it.
Oh, I didn't hear that.
He did it. He did an interview, and Willie Brown is, for those that don't know the background, she was his side piece, and that's how she got her first elected office because he anointed her, and he's admitted that that she was sleeping with him, and so this is what he did for her, and
isn't it amazing how?
But he's still an influencer. He still has a lot of influence, and he came out last week and said she shouldn't run, and I think that was it.
And our vice president just totally disappeared. It's like poof.
I mean, speaking of Joe Biden, he's supposed to be writing this book, and I think I read that it was expected to come out in a couple of years, and I'm like, a couple of years? This guy, is he going to be a?
Why would he? He probably took the auto pen to his house.
It takes that long for the auto pen to write a full story, I guess. But I remember thinking, he certainly isn't going to go around promoting it, is he? In a couple years?
That's right.
I mean, even if it's just a year from now, I don't think, even 6 months from now, I mean, the guy just seems to be increasingly diminished, and I don't know.
The world would buy that book.
No. It better have something good in it.
I mean,
there better be something real salacious in it.
I know. I mean, if you can't speak, you can't write.
What if it is just? What if they're like, you know what? We're just going to let him. It's him, and it's totally incoherent.
Be a book that people would read would be a book written by Dr. Jill, and it would say how I control the United States, how I control the White House.
Or what if it's this big, they build it up, and they're like, no one has seen it, and it's just Joe, and then it's just a picture of kids with hair. They're like, just children's haircuts. Yeah, it's like, it looks like one of those children's haircut books that they used to have in a salon, Christy Felnecki, thank you as always. Great pleasure. We have Author of the Week, sponsored by ABC Books in the next hour. I'm Nick Reed.
Two of an inquiry into a mid-air collision near Reagan National Airport earlier this year left dozens of people dead.
A helicopter involved in a deadly January crash with a passenger plane over Washington was flying above its height limit. The helicopter's altitude measuring instrument was also inaccurate. NTSB Chairwoman Jennifer Homendy.
We did testing in May that shows concerns with the altimeters, the barometric altimeters on the UH-60 Limas.
Hearings on the crash will continue focusing on military helicopter routes, collision avoidance technology, and air traffic controller training at Ronald Reagan National Airport. The crash killed 67 people. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
Nothing yet on a motive for the murder of two parents who were killed in front of their two young daughters. It happened along a hiking trail in an Arkansas state park. The suspect, 28-year-old Andrew McGann, under arrest. The two children were not hurt. They're now in the care of family members. President Trump says that even if lowering interest rates did drive inflation higher, there is an easy, time-tested remedy.
If that happens, what you do is you raise your rates and you do what you have to do to stop inflation. But we're keeping the rates high, and it's hurting people from buying houses, and we don't want that.
The Federal Reserve has once again refused to lower interest rates, but this time it was not a unanimous vote. Two Fed board members support a rate cut. In the end, though, the central bank voted to hold rates right where they are. Tomorrow's the president's deadline for other countries to reach trade deals with the U.S. or face sharply higher tariffs. South Korea has joined 10 other countries that now have a deal in place. In this case, 15% levy on imports from South Korea. The Dow futures up 113 points. More on these stories at townhall.com.
The following is not an actor, but a real-life story from Trinity Debt Management.
Hi, my name's Neil. I have some advice for you if you've been trying to break free from credit card debt. You can start by doing what I did. Get your bills together and call Trinity Debt Management. Trinity is dedicated to helping people like me become debt-free. When I called, my first experience was a feeling of relief. My counselor was kind, and best of all, she didn't judge me. In just a few minutes, she helped me figure out a plan that consolidated all my bills into one lower monthly payment. This substantially reduced my high interest rates and put me on the road to success. In the end, I saved thousands in interest, and today, my credit card debt is a thing of the past.
If credit card debt has you down, call Trinity at 1-800-990-6976.
My name is Neil. Take it from someone who's been there. Call Trinity and become debt-free for keeps.
1-800-990-6976.
The U.S.
We got a happy hour tomorrow, 4 to 6, Retro Metro. I think was today's high only like 80 or something. Is that
Yes.
tomorrow that cooler weather comes? This morning it felt nice.
Yeah, it did.
Coming in. I mean, it certainly felt nice compared to the way it's been, which I know is a relief. The guys since Monday have been working to install the create and install prep for my new patio area that Hunter Hardscapes is doing. And I realized yesterday I forgot to give them a heads up about my neighbor, Shirley, who is 90 something, I think, or I forget how old. She's very she's fantastic. And so I get home yesterday from somewhere, and she is in the driveway of our across the street neighbor. They swap back and forth, and sit in the sort of the garage, open garage, and lawn chairs. And so I get out of the truck and I hear her holler my name, and she said, "Let's have a talk" or something. And so I had some groceries and some Andes in my hand for the girl child, and I said, "Well, let me go inside real quick." And then my wife was out there, and I didn't see her, and she took it from me. She goes, "What'd you do?" And I was like, "I don't know. I have no idea. I don't think I did anything." So I go over, and she goes, "Hey," she said, "those guys that are working on your patio." She said, I was talking to one of them yesterday, and my first thought was, oh, I forgot to talk to them about Shirley. And she goes, I asked them why they aren't using the alley. Which I said, well, they have been using the alley some, but sometimes it's just more appropriate with machinery and so forth to go through the front area. And she goes, well, I'm just worried about your grass. And I was like, well, because, you run machinery, I was like, oh, it'll be fine, Shirley. I said, all that, when it's all, I said, trust me, these people are the best. It's going to be wonderful. And she's like, well, I know what, she goes, I know that. And she goes, because I was talking to him, and he told me that the owner is sometimes, on your show. And I'm like, oh, man, she's probably been talking. And one of the guys, I don't know which one, she was telling me about things that she clearly had been talking to him for some time because she had all this information about the guy.
That's cute.
Yeah, and so I was like, oh, I probably should have let him know ahead of time. Hey, Shirley's awesome. If she comes over and talks, she's fantastic. She's like the greatest neighbor ever that a person could ask for. But and so when I was walking away, I said something about, well, I think that they're supposed to be done midweek next week, and she's like, "Oh, don't worry, I'm keeping an eye on them." I said, "I know you are." She's the foreman of the job over there.
Between her and Butters.
Yep, that's right. Project manager Butters inspecting at the end of the day every day.
Make sure
That's far. Yes, indeed. So I'm sure they're out there as we speak. And it is, I'm be very, very excited. So Hunter's Hardscapes and Outdoor, they're just such absolute top-notch professional. One of the things that that I've noticed that they do is because we've got gravel that is dumped in order to do work and other things, and they just every night, even though it's going to get all messed up, they clean it all. They kind of sweep everything and clean everything up to leave it as nice looking as possible, just so they can mess it up again in the morning. It's just the absolute best you're going to get in professionalism and job, and I cannot recommend them enough if you want it done right. So whether it's your home, your business, new home, current home, Hunter Hardscapes and Outdoor, you can find them under Nick's endorsements, ksgf.com. Author of the Week coming up, sponsored by ABC Books on North Glenstone. Right now, the latest news update.
And the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair of the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we'll see scattered showers throughout the day and then mostly cloudy with a high near 81. Tonight, isolated showers and thunderstorms before 7 p.m. and then mostly cloudy with a low around 64. And for your Friday and Saturday, sunny with a high near 82.
For one, I'm Nick Reed. It's Thursday, which means it's Author of the Week. Time sponsored by ABC Books on North Glenstone. Our author today, someone, the book a little more lighthearted, Salvador Litvak. The book is Let My People Laugh, Greatest Jewish Jokes of All Time. And I want to thank you for being with us this morning. You're also a filmmaker. We'll talk a bit about that as well, and how it is you became you to write a book like this and about the film. But I did want to ask you, as somebody of the Jewish faith, the big controversy right now with Sydney Sweeney, apparently what we all thought was just this innocent, beloved American actress, apparently is a secret Nazi, and she's decided to use a jean advertisement through American Eagle in order to spread her Nazi propaganda. At least that's what we've been told. I clearly am naive. I didn't see it that way. Curious your thoughts on all of that.
I just wonder what these people think about, the millions of products that have been sold for a century, featuring good-looking people who put them on and wear them and walk around. And I would say anybody who's very handsome, very beautiful, is blessed with good genes. Lucky them. And I guess we like to look at the products that we'd like to buy on handsome and pretty models. How is this eugenics? How is this some kind of hidden Nazi message? I don't know. These people are crazy.
Well, and it just seems like such a contradiction. I suspect, and perhaps I'm stereotyping, though, that some of these individuals that are portraying this as some sort of dog whistle for Nazism are probably oftentimes the same people who promote actual anti-Semitism on college campuses. It's just free speech. That's all it is. It's just free speech. Seems like quite a contradiction.
Oh, yeah. I've seen some of these influencers posting about Sydney and saying not only is she here saying that this white-skinned, blue-eyed, blonde-haired woman talking about her good genes, but we've seen, because we're such a detective sleuths, right? We've seen that Sydney posted pictures of herself with her family online. And not only are these people white, but they wear cowboy hats. So clearly they're the red hat brigade. That's what they call them now. I didn't know it was not just red states, but they're red hats. And they say, well, Sydney can't help who her family is, but this is a bridge too far. I mean, the implications of this are unreal. Like, Sydney should have written off her family because they supported President Trump. Well, she can't help that. But this, this, talking about her genes. And I really got to give credit to American Eagle. I mean, I just wonder if they're paying some of these leftist influencers to make a big brouhaha, and they're getting so much attention. Their stock is soaring. They're selling a lot of jeans. I give them a lot of credit. If they're not paying these leftists, I give them even more credit for knowing that they're going to trigger them in this way.
It really is, I think, encouraging to see what would have maybe 4 years ago had a different outcome, one in which there was a belief by a company that noise on the internet was a representation of the public at large, and oh no, we'd better change course immediately, to instead realizing, wait a minute, this not only isn't going to hurt us, if we just hold fast, it might actually help us. And I think that's encouraging.
Yeah. I'm in the movie business out here in Hollywood. There's so many of these really brilliant producers and filmmakers who've been around for a long time. And they got into this mode where they're more afraid of their 23-year-old intern and what they might say in the cancel culture mob than the audience. They care more about the interns than the audience. I do think that the pendulum is starting to swing back across all these industries, where you're just realizing that the noisemakers are not the public.
Right.
I think most Americans are moderate people. They value freedom. They value security. On the different sides of the aisle, we might argue about how much freedom should we give up for security? How much security should we give up for freedom as we prioritize? But we don't need to go to crazy extremes, right? And we don't have to have the news cycle dominated by the crazy extremes.
Right. We're talking with our author of the week, Salvador Litvak. His book, Let My People Laugh, Greatest Jewish Jokes of All Time. What motivated you to write the book?
So my wife and I run a Jewish wisdom platform called Accidental Talmudist, where we share what's beautiful in the Jewish tradition, especially the oral tradition, stretching back 3,000 years to Mount Sinai. And humor has always been part of the Jewish wisdom tradition. We learned that the great sage Rabbah, 2,000 years ago, he would always open his lectures with a joke, and his students would laugh. So either he was genuinely funny or his students were very polite. But I think we've all seen that humor can sort of open doors to critical thinking that other modes of expression can't. And so I feel like I'm an inheritor of this wonderful humor tradition. And what I've done with these jokes is, first of all, chosen the best of them. There's been lots of Jewish joke books, but they usually have way too many jokes in them, and a lot of them are not that funny. I took the best 163 jokes, and I've adapted them to the modern ear, so they're all in their best form, and made some lists at the beginning so that you've got the best jokes for a business lunch, for a first date, for a fundraising speech, for a wedding toast, the jokes you need when you need them. And perhaps your audience would like to hear one of the greatest Jewish jokes of all time.
Yes, please.
So a rabbi, a Hindu priest, and a politician go out for a hike. And they're planning to stay at a charming inn, but they get lost. They can't find it. They end up knocking on the door of a farmer. Farmer says, no problem, you guys can stay here, but I only have a small guest room with 2 beds. One of you is going to have to sleep in the barn. The Hindu priest says, my brothers, it's no problem. I'll take the barn. The rabbi and the politician settling in for the night, and there's a knock on the door of the bedroom. It's the Hindu priest, and he says, I'm sorry, my brothers, there's a cow in the barn. I can't sleep beside the holy animal. The rabbi says, no problem. I'll take the barn. The politician and the Hindu priest settling down for the night. There's a knock on the bedroom door. It's the rabbi. He says, there's a pig in the barn. I can't sleep beside the filthy animal. Politician says, let it be remembered. I sacrificed for the greater good. He heads off to the barn. Rabbi and the Hindu priest are settling in for the evening. There's a knock on the bedroom door. They open it. It's the cow and the pig.
Well, okay, so I like that. And I'm glad that I got it, because this was going to sort of be, I guess, my next question. And the reason I say I'm glad I got it, I'm a Christian, and I think while we do have listeners that are Jewish, I think probably the plurality of our listeners are of the Christian faith, but I don't think there are two faiths that are greater allies than Christianity and people of the Jewish faith. But then I'm thinking to myself, when you started to tell the joke, and this being the greatest Jewish jokes of all time, are they inside jokes? Are people who are not Jewish going to understand them? Now, that one I did. So that was for a wider audience. I like that. But are there some jokes in there that I'm going to have to go to my Jewish friends and say, I need you to explain this to me?
I mean, there's a couple.
Yeah.
There's a few. But I would say that of the 163, maybe 10 or 15, you might need a little help. But humor crosses all boundaries, and especially as you mentioned, I would say that this country was founded on Judeo-Christian principles. Right. We have so much in common. The idea that there is a creator, that he sent us a message with a moral framework, how we're supposed to live, what we can and cannot do, what we should and should not do. I think we can agree on so much of that. Mm. And I think you really recognize that in my movie that's in theaters right now, Guns N' Moses. And people can see the trailer at gunsandmosesmovie.com.
Yeah, tell us about
Neil
it.
Starring Neil McDonough, Christopher Lloyd, Dermot Mulroney, and Mark Feuerstein as Rabbi Mo. It's the story of a rabbi, a clergyman in a small high desert town who becomes an unlikely gunfighter after his community is violently attacked. It's an action thriller, straight up, with so much entertainment value. But it was, at least the character of Rabbi Mo, was inspired by a real event, a shooting that happened in a synagogue in 2019 in Poway, California. In this case, there's a shooting, there's a murder. The cops think they've got the killer right away, a young white nationalist who's really a kid who's just learned to hate Jews online, probably from leftist propaganda. He's never really met Jews. And he's not the killer. And so the only one who believes him is the rabbi. And since the cops won't investigate, the rabbi heads out and starts asking the difficult questions. And as the danger level increases, the rabbi has to learn to defend himself and his community. And he learns how to shoot with real firearms training from the real world, not the usual montage of tin cans on the fence. We wrote this and shot it before October 7th. We knew that attacks on Jews and Jews who fight back would always be relevant, but we never imagined a horror like October 7th or this explosion of Jew hatred that has been on the streets of America, and especially the college campuses since. It's unbelievable. Wow. We're living in such times, but we're just so grateful to have allies and to have people whose critical thinking can judge for themselves. You just had a story in the New York Times, right, where they show these pictures of starving children and Israel committing genocide, starving Gaza. And then it was proven to be absolutely fake pictures where they knowingly cropped out the healthy-looking mother, the healthy-looking siblings, a very unfortunate child with muscular dystrophy who is not starving. He's skinny because of that disease. And the New York Times knew that. Yeah. And it's amazing. And then they published the retraction yesterday. But how many people saw the front page story? Right. And how many people saw the back page retraction a few days later?
Yeah, and I've become a firm believer that is also a tactic that is used because they know that the image will last forever. So even if people do see the retraction, there will be other people out there that are looking in order to validate their anti-Semitic beliefs. And so they'll do an internet search for starving child in Gaza, and that picture will pop up because it's already there, and it will validate it. And I've actually come to believe that increasingly, as we see sometimes elected officials tell these just very clear lies, and then the next day, I didn't mean that, whatever the issue's about. And I believe that that's why they're doing it, because then down the road, somebody looking to validate their beliefs so that they can repost an article will Google it, and then the story will come up of the original misstatement, and it validates their belief. And I think that's what also occurred with the New York Times. It's a tactic increasingly, I think, that's being used. We're talking with our author of the week, Salvador Litvak, the book Let My People Laugh, Greatest Jewish Jokes of All Time. I have to tell you, with this book and what I would, as a non-Jewish person, I think one of my favorite Jewish jokes about Jewish jokes was an episode of Seinfeld in which Jerry's dentist, who was played by Bryan Cranston, converted to Judaism. Yes. And so he was telling Jewish jokes, and Jerry was complaining about it. I think maybe it was to his rabbi. And so the question to him was, oh, and this offends you as a Jew? And he says, no, it offends me as a comedian. And I just always thought that was one of the funniest jokes that I'd ever heard regarding that particular sort of issue. Any final thoughts? I mean, I know generally we focus so much just on the book, but given the current events and the film Guns and Moses in theaters now, and we'll make sure to get the trailer up on our site so people can see it. But just any final thoughts for our listeners this morning?
First of all, just a big hug and a thank you to everybody who can think for themselves and understand that right now the Jewish people need you. I mean, we're really threatened in a way that we haven't been in 80 years since the Holocaust. It was like, all that death and tragedy. And my grandmother survived, carried my mother as an infant to a concentration camp. My grandfather was murdered in a different camp. And that generation, the Hungarians in my family, they always said, it could happen again. It could happen here. We said, listen, Grandma, we know what you're saying. You went through this horror, but not in America. Nothing like that could ever happen in America. And I don't think we're at the point where a Holocaust could or is happening in America. But we also have never seen this kind of overt, brazen Jew hatred being shouted from the rooftops. Right. When you hear somebody saying globalize the Intifada and from the river to the sea, that is a call for the eradication of Israel and the murder of Jews around the world. And that call for violence is being heard by crazy people, and maybe not so crazy, but just hateful people. And there's just been an explosion of attacks. I joined an organization called Magen Am, which means Shield of the Nation in Hebrew. I didn't grow up around guns. I was not a gun guy. But I've gotten trained and licensed, and I carry a firearm, and I carry in synagogue, and I'm an Orthodox Jew, which is to say a visible Jew. We're very aware of this threat level. And please God, we should never need such skills or such training or such a weapon. But if we do, we will not be a soft target. And we are just so grateful for the people that stand by us in this difficult hour.
Well, you have family, allies here, and I know within our listenership, and thank you so much for being with us this morning. Salvador Litvak, again, mentioning his latest film, Guns and Moses. The book, Let My People Laugh, Greatest Jewish Jokes of All Time, our author of the week, sponsored by ABC Books on North Glenstone. I'm Nick Reed. Maybe it is to get a second look at your refinancing, reverse mortgage, home loan. I want a great homeloan.com. We oftentimes think, well, all experiences are the same. It's just all about giving them your social security number and then some info, and it's just all the same. It is not all the same. The experience can be quite different, and much of it is customer service. When we talked with Anthony, I think it was last week, perhaps, and he had noted that, once again, they just closed on someone, and he said the amount of time. It was just less than 2 weeks, I believe, on someone who came to them because their home institution that they had been going through kind of gave up on them because they just found it to be too difficult. Or I had asked, I said, well, what causes this? He goes, it's different situations. Sometimes the person who's handling it leaves, and then that institution doesn't have anyone. They only have that one person that does loans, and then they're gone, and so you're left high and dry. That's not uncommon. But oftentimes it's just because maybe your particular situation is a bit of a hassle, and it's going to be too much time they have to spend on you, and they don't see that as a good trade-off for the return they're going to get, financially speaking. And that's how it is that a lot of folks end up going to iwantagreathomeloan.com, and they get taken care of there. So you could do it that route, or you could just go there first, which is what I recommend at iwantagreathomeloan.com, because you do.
Springfield's Talk 1041, the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by J&S Automotive. Today we'll see scattered showers throughout the day and then mostly cloudy with a high near 81. Tonight, isolated showers and thunderstorms before 7 p.m. and then mostly cloudy with a low around 64. And for your Friday and Saturday, sunny with a high near 82.
It's 74 right now. How nice is that, right?
It is so nice. I'm ready for fall.
Well, the last day of July. Last day of July is today, right? Tomorrow's August 1. Tomorrow's also, being the first Friday of the month, it will be a happy hour at Retro Metro.
Oh, perfect patio weather.
It will be nice patio weather. You want to hang out on the patio, or you go out and have your smoke, and you don't have to worry about heat exhaustion while you're out there. So it'll be nice. 4 to 6, new happy hour specials, food and drink. And we just hang out and have a great time. So we'd love for you to swing by and join us at Retro Metro. It's in the bar area. And it's come and go as you please. It's not, you have to be there at 4, and then we'll let you leave at 6. You can get there at 5:30, get there at 4:15. Hang out for 10 minutes, hang out for 2 hours. Whatever you want to do. I wanted to share an update on what there's been quite a lot of discussion, rightfully so, regarding, and it's this attack of some white people by people of color in Cincinnati. And there's video, and so this has garnered attention, along with the fact that it took the mayor like a couple days, he's a Democrat, to acknowledge it. And that came, I believe, only because people are like, is the mayor going to weigh in on this? The mayor described it as a fight. It's like saying slavery was a work agreement. I mean, this was a mob of individuals, and you had a couple of white people that were just brutally attacked, while people filmed it. According to the chief of police, 1 call to 911. 1. The police chief also blamed alcohol and social media, and while I'm sure that those played a factor in it, that's not the driving reason behind it. I mean, if there were a bunch of good old boys that surrounded a black couple and just beat them relentlessly, and they were drunk, would that be the reason given? You think, well, this is a real problem. This is alcohol. That's the drive. I think not, nor should it be. The chief of police also lectured the general public at large about how the fact, well, there's context missing here. I'm pretty good at playing devil's advocate and saying, okay, what are all right, so context, what context possibly could there be that would be, to some people, not necessarily an excuse, but makes it maybe a little more understandable? I can't think of anything. I don't know. I mean, let's just, in my mind, let's say that the guy called the crowd a bunch of N-words. Well, even at that doesn't excuse what they did. But there's no evidence of that. I'm just explaining that, I'm trying to think what context that we're being scolded about not understanding and knowing here could possibly justify this. And the chief of police has not given up what that context is. They've arrested a third individual, and law enforcement is thus far describing this as premeditated because video shows the individuals that got this started kind of whispering at one another and then making what was clearly an approach for the purposes of carrying out this attack. And, of course, we all know that this is being treated differently because of the race component here. And there is a certain privilege that appears to be at play, that if you are of a certain race and you target another race, it's not put in that context. We don't hear about hate crimes. We don't hear about this being a reflection of a larger problem within the culture. That is a privilege that certain races in this country are provided, while others are not. The woman that was, quote, sucker punched evidently was not American. She was from Russia and has fled back to her home country. Now, I'm not sure if she was here as a tourist or visiting a friend, or I have not yet seen any further details as to, why she happened to be here and in Cincinnati. Don't know, but the reports say she has fled back to Russia, which one can understand. What has also been reported is that the reason she was in the mix at all to get sucker punched is because she was the one person who tried to step in and help the man who was being attacked. And when you look at this as a whole, what a embarrassing and sad commentary on what we have going on. And this, again, it is isolated to Democrat-run cities in this country. It's the culture. You have a mob of people of which a few individuals are viciously attacking two people that are of a different race. The mob of people, no one jumps in to try to save the individual, instead laughing and filming it. These are Americans. The one person who steps up and steps in to try to and puts their own safety, their own life in danger, somebody that wasn't even from this country, apparently. And then the result is gets punched by a man, knocked out, and so then, again, according to the reports, is fled back to her home country. What a horrifically embarrassing and disgusting reflection of the culture that has been cultivated in these cities in this country. I mean, here you are from another, and you realize you're the only one who steps in. This isn't even your country. These aren't even, quote, your people. Americans are standing around watching this happen to other Americans. And then you get cold-cocked for it, knocked out. Could have been killed. And then the mayor, finally, after public pressure, makes a statement and refers to this as just a, quote, fight. I mean, he goes on and on about, oh, this is unacceptable. And so this was not a fight. Any more than a rape is some sort of, sexual disagreement. The culture that we are seeing more profoundly as the days go by in these cities that are generation after generation run by the left. This is the great utopia that they always talked about. Oh, and by the way, one of the city council persons, a city councilwoman in Cincinnati, posted on social media the video of it happening along with the comment. This is a councilwoman in Cincinnati. They begged for that beatdown. I'm grateful for the whole story. Kid you not. Leona Aaliyah La Jacanen, who, according to her bio, quote, led the charge in passing racism as a public health crisis. White supremacy, that's the big concern in this country, of course. Racism, white privilege, that's the real problem we have in the United States of America. The level of denial that we are living in this country, now I know most of you are not. But the prevailing voices, the prevailing culture, the media, that these instances occur that are so brazenly racist. When you have an elected woman of color that is celebrating this, saying they had it coming. And it's just act like no big deal. Oh yeah, she probably shouldn't have. I'm sure they'll, if there hasn't been already, some sort of statement from the city. Well, that's not a reflection of who we are. And of course that, just the standard crap. But then we'll have some story somewhere making sure we understand, of course, that white supremacy is the real danger. Now, you may not see it, but here's an expert over here from, the Southern Poverty Law Center to make sure you understand that actually white supremacy, that's the real danger in this country. Now, you may not see it anywhere. There may not actually be any actual examples of it, but it's there. It's bad anyhow, but just it's like if you were to check off every box that makes it worse. A mayor in that city that just references it as a fight, a city councilwoman who says they had it coming, the one person out of the hundreds that apparently were there that actually stepped in to try to help the guy who was being pummeled wasn't even from this country, and for her her stepping up in order to try to do what's right, she gets cold-cocked and she's fled back to her country. This is the opposite of what this country is supposed to be about, and it's the opposite of what this country is about over the vast majority, geographically speaking, of this country. And it is not a coincidence that these are the sorts of things that continue to pop up over and over and over again in cities that have been run generation after generation by the left. This is not a coincidence. Springfield's Talk 104.1, I'm Nick Reed. Sarah Myers, everyone.
Thank you. I want to read a review for my friends over at the Pyramid Roofing Company. Patsy wrote, we had excellent service with Josh and the Pyramid Roofing Company. Josh listened to us and he looked and then he took pictures. He went to the roof, found the issue, fixed it right there on the spot. Checked our total roof just to make sure there were no other complications. Very personable, knowledgeable, and honest. Highly recommend him to anyone having water/roof issues 5 stars for sure. And that's what you get with the Pyramid Roofing Company. They are very upfront and honest about the work that needs to be done. Whether it's a whole new roof or maybe you're like Patsy, maybe it's just a simple roof repair, the Pyramid team, they will get you all taken care of. So if it is time to have the Pyramid Roofing Company team out to your home, reach out to Josh and schedule your free roof inspection. You can find all of the contact information for the Pyramid Roofing Company under the Sarah's Endorsements tab at ksgf.com.
It's just to, I guess, evaluate how twisted and sick we are in this country culturally when it comes to issues of race. You look at this situation in Cincinnati, which is this is not an uncommon thing. I think it just needs to be verbalized more, and people should not be afraid of it, in which black people target white people, and it gets played off and ignored as if it's no big deal. There was video, I think was it New Mexico or Arizona, at a school in which a bunch of, black kids jumped and beat the living, may even killed the kid. I can't remember. It was a white kid. There was that white dentist that was riding his bike, I think in Las Vegas. 2 black kids, mowed him down laughing, filming it. And when booked, said, you're not going to do anything to me. There's no sense of accountability. There is this culture that has devalued and demonized people who are white to the point that it makes some people culturally feel as if it's okay to target white people because they're privileged, they're the problem, they're bad. And so in Cincinnati, when you have a mob of individuals of color that target some white people and just beat them relentlessly, laughing about it, filming it, the mayor finally addresses it after public pressure, referring to it as a fight. You have a black city councilwoman saying that she's glad it happened, that they had it coming. And there's no national outcry. There's no, does anybody even know that? I mean, we all know the name of George Floyd, a guy who was a piece of crap criminal. A guy who held up a pregnant woman by putting a gun to her stomach, threatening to kill her unborn child, among other things. That guy has statues. Does anybody even know the name of the white guy or the white gal that got the beat down here for doing absolutely nothing wrong whatsoever? No. Well, because they're white. See, their life isn't as valuable. And while some people, particularly on the left, will say, well, that's not what we're saying, really? Then why don't we care? Why is it that this story does not get the same level of story that it would if these were people of color? It's because they're white. And then you look at just the way that even the city of Springfield flipping out because, there's this organization, the Back to the Land or Return to the Land. And it's a guy by the name of Eric Orwell, and so he's about heritage and ancestry and like, hey, we just kind of want to buy a bunch of land and then have our own community of white people, and we want to really focus on education and have our own healthcare system, and it's white only because we're not against people segregating. They can do whatever they want, but we want to really focus on our heritage and celebrate that. And everyone's flipping out over that to the point that here, the city of Springfield has spoken up. Quote, headline news leader, there's no place in Springfield for a whites-only community, council says amid reports. Ironically, the NAACP is condemning it, an organization that is specifically about a single race. But see, that race is black. That's okay. That's to be celebrated. If the race is white, that is just inherently a bad thing. And see, that's what I'm talking about when I mention this, the way that they have assimilated, even thinking non-racist people, into defaulting to believing if it's white, it's bad. If it isn't, it's good. If you are a community of individuals that say, we want to buy some land and just celebrate our heritage and so forth, and, well, okay, but what color are you? Well, we're Pakistani. Oh, okay, that's cool. That's awesome. That's great to be proud of your heritage. That's great to want to celebrate and to pass that on to your kids. Oh, you're white? There's no room for you. Those of you who believe that, do you ever stop and ask yourself, why is it that I believe that? What I find interesting about these reports, which, this white community thing, I'm indifferent. I don't care. Now, I would care if these were people that were going around doing bad things, but you know what I've noticed is missing from every story saying there's no room for these people? Any reports about the fact that they've ever done anything wrong, or that they hate black people, they hate minorities, they call for, violence, or they are out there, committing crimes across the countryside. There's not been a single, I saw an attempt where it's like somebody, that the founder knows that was in El Salvador once, and he was, it's like this desperate attempt to try the 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon or whatever to, connect the guy to violence. But point being is these are people, they can't even identify they've done anything wrong. And I don't know these people. I don't care. I don't care if whatever your collective group, you want to freely assemble as black people, as Hispanics, as Asians, or whatever, go ahead, as long as you're not doing anybody harm. But the point here is that we have crafted this culture in this country where you can do that as long as you're anybody but white, and nobody can even explain why. Well, just because. Oh, well, that's logical, isn't it? Just like most racism, there is no logic that can be used in order to back it up and rationalize.